Okay, we'll try this one. Now, this is about Goliath, the tallest horse in the world. He was living with us at Northcote for about 10 years or so. He came because Young's Brewery at Wandsworth, the head horseman, Kevin Flynn, rang me to see if we could take him in, because he'd had a hard time. He'd lived with Young's Brewery for quite a long time. He'd worked with them, but not delivering beer, because when he was younger, he was mistreated. And so he didn't look terribly good looking. He was a big bag of bones, really, enormously tall, but he hadn't matured properly. Now, you can read all about this in our picture story book, Goliath the Tallest Horse in the World. I know a lot of you don't like reading nowadays, but I love it, but so that's why I like writing as well. But even so, there's lots of pictures, and I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Goliath coming back to live with us, and the incredible journey we had to get him home. It took us a whole day of daylight hours. It was a double nightmare. Kevin had asked us if we'd pick him up from near Sheffield Park in East Sussex. It's near the Bluebell Railway. He'd gone there to retire after he'd left Young's Brewery. He was living on a farm. But he'd got bad arthritis and it was getting worse, and he couldn't bend his back legs very well, and he'd fallen over. And he'd fallen over in a stable. And so they'd had to get him out. And that took an awful lot of doing. And in the process, time it took, he got himself injured. Big wounds. Because he was bony, then bones poked through his skin and all kinds of nasty things happened. And so he was under the care of a vet for a long time before he could travel. We told Kevin we'd have a go. Well, it wasn't very democratic. All the helpers said, you can't take him on, and anyway, I just couldn't refuse, really. So we decided we'd have Goliath. When we got down there, we took our big trailer and we borrowed a lorry from Robert next door. It was a Ford D-Series, like a small pony horse box. Not very big. I mean, there's regulations about carrying horses, and you've got to give them enough room and all that kind of thing. Well, this one really was a pony box. But it was 6-cylinder engine, it would tow our big trailer. So off we went. Empty all the way down to East Sussex. We left Great Steeping near Spilsby, some unearthly hour. A young lady called Kathy was with me from Spilsby. She was one of our volunteer helpers, smashing girl. And she was really marvellous on this day of eventualities. So we got down there, and first thing we found out was that Goliath had got a mate, Big Bonnie, a big Greyshire horse, not as big as Goliath, but a lot heavier. And these two had become inseparable, so we had to bring him as well. And a good job the trailer got plenty of room, and we got a petition in it. So we started loading them up, and I put Big Bonnie in the front of the trailer and put the petition across. And then we got Goliath in the back and managed to, because he was a bit unstable, then we got his bum lobbed up against one of the back door pillars. Big steel frame trailer. It was actually an ex-lorry body, and we put axles on it. We got the back door up, and Goliath was settled in. He could reach right across the trailer, a big chap, so his hay net was at the other side. And Bonnie, he could see his mate Bonnie in there as well, just in front of him. And we set off. A long way back. Goodness, I don't know. Must be the best part of 200 miles. Because, London is a long way from Lincolnshire, 130 miles or something. And it was a long way beyond that, so I reckon it was about 200 miles. We came back on the London lower bypass, M25 is it or something? It's a thing that goes around London, and so you can get around London. Anyway, this is a long time ago, 1992 or something like that it was. And the first problem we had was getting through the Dartford Tunnel. And just after that, going north, heading towards the M11, that's it, M25, pick up the M11, past Cambridge, and then up to Peterborough on the A1, and then the A16, and through Spalding, Boston, and up to Great Steeping. Anyway, just north of the Dartford Tunnel, a lorry driver passed me, and he wound the window down, or his mate did, and said, hey, one of your back tyres is flat, and you're running on the wheel. So we're actually running on the metal wheel. So, you know, just north of the Dartford Tunnel, M25 is like 2 or 3 carriageways, and there's not a lot of room to pull in. Well, there wasn't then anyway. So I just pulled on the verge and found that, the tyre beneath Goliath, the one beneath him, where he was stood, was absolutely dead flat. And we're running on the metal rim. Wow. So you can't get, the M25, and I think it was a Saturday, it was bedlam. You couldn't get horses out or anything like that. So I got jacks and spare wheels and stuff, and so I got trolley jack out, it was a bottle jack out, and put it underneath the back axle and started jacking it up, and the whole thing fell apart, went boom. It was obviously too much weight for it. It was Goliath and the trailer and everything else, and so the bottle jack wouldn't stand it. So we went and found one of these emergency telephones. I think it's St. Cathy. Went to an emergency telephone and said, could we get some help to change a wheel on a trailer with some horses in? Well, we sat there, waited for ages. And then a van came along, and he said, I can't do anything here because it's madness side of the road here. So we'll pull up, go up to the next bridge that goes over, and we'll pull up under that. It's a bit wider, he said, and I'll change the wheel. And he did. I think it was the AA or something like that did it for us. Through the AA anyway. And this chap changed the wheel, put our spare wheel on, and off we went again. Well, we'd got just onto the M11, come off the M25, turned onto the M11, and we'd probably been plodded along for about 20 minutes. And a police motorbike came alongside and said, you'll have to stop because the tyre on your near side rear is on fire. I joke not. The tyre, near side rear axle, 2 axles, the back axle, near side tyre was actually on fire. So we pulled into the side of the road. And the police motorbike chap, he was brilliant. I mean, the tyre, it didn't stay on fire long. It was smoking. It was smoking and making, it was about to ignite. And of course, we're on the wheel again. Well, we used one spare wheel, we haven't got any more. And he said, well, look, he says, I think the best thing you can do is just a bit further up here on the left, there's I can get access to a road off the motorway. It's not official, it's a emergency access road. So he said, I'll take you down to that and have a talk then. So we poddled up there a bit further, and we pulled off the motorway and through this gate. He got keys to it, and we stopped, and I said, oh God, yes. And I showed him what was in the trailer, these 2 horses. I said, this chap is been ill and he's going to a refuge, to be cared for. And he was the biggest horse in the world. At that time he was the Guinness record holder, tallest horse in the whole world. So I said, well, I'll tell you what, I'll get one of my patrol car colleagues to come along and see if they can help. I said, well, I reckon that if I could take a wheel off and put one of the wheels off the front axle onto the back axle, I can then spread the weight between the tow bar of the lorry and the back axle of the trailer. I said, well, in the meantime, I'm going to get the horses out and give them a break, because I don't know how long we've been on the road. I think we left Sheffield Park about 9:30, and by this time it was like 2:30, 3 o'clock. So getting on for 5 or 6 hours, and they've been stuck in this trailer. So we got them out, and I couldn't change the axle or wheels or anything, ideally with the horses in anyway. I don't know how I was going to do it anyway, so we took the horses out and gave them a bit of a wander about on this grass verge. It was off the motorway, it was very quiet, and Kathy was ever so good with them. And then I decided we'd actually turn the whole thing round, so we disconnected the trailer and got it reconnected and back up this slope towards the motorway, facing the motorway. And then I thought, well, if I get the back axle with 2 tyres on, I mean, will it carry the weight? So we dropped we disconnected the trailer again and dropped the tail door of the lorry just to see if we can get these horses in the lorry. I mean, the lorry is long enough, it's just that the roof was a bit low. So by this time the horses are getting a bit tired, you know, and we gave them a drink, and so they got some grass that perked them up a bit. So we got Bonnie in first in the lorry. They were easy to load, I must admit. That was one good thing, they were easy to get in. And Goliath followed, but the only trouble was his withers were virtually touching the roof of the lorry. His withers were quite high. Oh, withers were over 6 foot high. I don't think I couldn't see over his withers, so no, his withers were over 6 foot. So his withers were nearly touching the roof inside. Unfortunately, the lorry had got a bit of a curve on the roof. Just going to get my arms together. So in the middle, we got him in the middle and Bonnie to one side, and we put hay nets in and everything, and shut the door. Anyway, patrol car arrived then. The patrol car chaps weren't quite as helpful as the motorbike man. Cambridge Police. And they got a Ford. Oh dear, what was it? It was like a Granada or something like that. And I'd loosened some of the wheel nuts off the front axle on the near side, and I'd loosened the wheel nuts on the wheel which had no tyre on anymore. And I said, look, if there's any possible chance you could help, I can get this front wheel off because there's no weight on it now, and I can just drag it off the studs. But I need a jack to get under to lift that back axle a bit to get the wheel on. Well, all he got was a car jack for like this Granada or whatever it was, and it, you know, fitted in the slot in the side of the sills of the car. I said, well, I think I can maybe do something with this. If one of you could take this wheel off and slip the other one on, I'll hold the jack in place with my hands and clamp it around the axle. Kathy can wind it up, and we've got to be quick. Get the wheel off, stick the other wheel on, and you can have your jack back. Sounds incredible, doesn't it? Anyway, it worked. It worked. I held this jack underneath the axle, just sort of with my hands, ever so carefully. Kathy wound it, lifted the axle up. We got the old wheel off with the burnt out tyre, put the other wheel on. I did the nuts up. I've got toolkit with me, you see, so I could do that. And gave the jack back to the patrol car, who were very pleased to be able to say cheerio. And with that, we actually drove home. It was after dark when we got back to Great Steeping, and Kathy helped me to get the horses out. They were tired, and we got them in a stall, a big stall. We don't use stables, so they were in a bit. That's one reason why Kevin had rung us, because he knew we didn't use stables. And all the big horses are in like big stalls which they either share with mates or they're individual or whatever, and lots of room to roam about inside, just divided by poles and telegraph poles and stuff like that, big gates. And we left them to it till the morning, got some food and a bit of extra, some nibbles and that kind of thing, and left them to it in the morning. Anyway, there's some pictures coming up. Kathy got Goliath out the next morning. There's a picture with her and Goliath, and that was just one incident of things that happened to Goliath while he was with us for over 10 years. And if you want to read the rest of it, download the book. page flipping picture storybook, lots of pictures, and I'm sure you'll enjoy reading the story. So thanks for being with us so far and your patience. Even if you don't like horses, then don't forget to give us a like, subscribe to the channel if you think you like it or you like what we're doing. And in the meantime, until the next time, cheerio.